Okay, so it is Saturday the 26th of March 2022. It's about 10 a.m. in the morning, UK time. This is my last day in the beautiful Highlands of Scotland. I'm doing a set of videos today on Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. I thought I'd do it up here where there's clean air, clean water, clean background before I return to London. Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Neptune has a 165 to 166 year orbit. It spends just under 14 years in each sign of the zodiac. Jupiter has an 11.96 year orbit, so it spends effectively on average 1 year in each sign of the zodiac. Therefore, there's a Jupiter-Neptune conjunction on average every 13 and a bit years. Sometimes, because of the Jupiter's retrograde motion and the time of year that the conjunction happens, the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction can take up to 8 months, where Jupiter moves forward, conjunct Neptune, moves backwards, retrograde, conjunct Neptune, moves forward, conjunct Neptune again. Other times, it can be a one-time conjunction, such as this time. Jupiter and Neptune are both in Pisces, where they're both quite comfortable. Neptune is seen astrologically as the ruler of Pisces, and Jupiter used to rule Pisces until Neptune's discovery. In mythology, Jupiter and Neptune are equal and opposite. They're brothers, and most of the time they get on quite well. And particularly with the conjunction being in Pisces, this is seen as generally a favourable conjunction in many ways. Pisces is very much a water sign. And when you look at the recognition of how important water is in our life and how big water is happening around the world, you can see how this conjunction is having a minimal effect in our understanding of water and water influences in our lives. The idea of wave power, water power, hydroelectricity is becoming more and more in the public eye, whether it's for the positive or for the challenging. Our awareness of the plastics in the ocean and the state of the water on our planet is also something that's becoming more and more visible in terms of the public awareness and the public consciousness. In my country, the UK, there's a big development going on around ferry companies having sacked all of their employees unilaterally without a moment's notice, and employing much cheaper labour at 25% of the fee of the wage. In Australia, there's huge floods. Water seems to be on the agenda in the background in many different ways during 2022. But there's also other things around the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. At a neutral level, we're looking at the awareness of issues around food consumption. I suggest that just in this last year or two, certainly since Neptune's been in Pisces, which is for the last 10 years, and since Jupiter's been in Pisces, which is basically just this year, the awareness of what we eat, how much we eat, and particularly the quality of what we eat, less than the quantity, is becoming more and more important. The current trend towards plant-based foods and veganism is something that's long overdue in my opinion, in my personal opinion. Astrologically, I would understand if a number of people could say, but that's nothing to do with astrology. And I would argue, well, actually, yes, it is. Because part of the idea behind veganism is not just that plant foods are a much healthier diet than meat-based, but it's also behind the idea that Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces bring the element of compassion. And that compassion isn't limited purely to humans. It's about compassion for every living being on the planet. And when you realise that we raise animals just so that we can murder them to eat them. Now, I'm biased. I've been a vegetarian 45 years, so I can't be objective about this, but it doesn't seem intelligent to kill animals just for the fun of eating them when we don't need to. So I do expect the idea of plant-based foods, vegetarianism, veganism, to become a stronger and stronger impulse as we get more and more into this year. The Jupiter-Neptune conjunction is going to be very amplifying the capacity for intuition globally. The thing about Neptune in Pisces is that it does bring a lot of intuitive capacity. It's in its comfortable zone, so it would enhance the more intellectually sensual side. And Jupiter amplifying this is going to bring a big upsurge and a big increase in personal intuition over the coming month. Here I differentiate between intuition and instinct. In the intuition is a human construct. It starts at the solar plexus and goes north, whereas instinct, we all have gut instinct. It's an animal construct. It belongs to the body, the animal part of our lives that many of us choose to try and ignore. Instinct goes from the navel and heads south. So, but this is intuitive for Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. It's going to raise people's awareness of their own intuitive capacity. And again, that's not a bad thing. There's also the kind of potential here for a much broader and expanded ideas of religion, worship, dogma, theology, and our own notion of the divine. I suggest that our own individual relationship with the divine, however we choose to see the divine as being, is going to bring a greater awareness of divinity over the coming month or two. Again, not a bad thing. This conjunction only happens once every 12 to 13 to 14 years. So this, on a neutral level, all of these things are happening. An awareness of the oceans, an awareness of the importance of water in our life, an awareness of the food that we eat and the effect it has upon us, and an understanding, a more integration, if you like, of our ability to work with our intuition and our link with the divine. So on the neutral level, the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction I'm trying to find the neutral side of it, but it's difficult because generally it's quite a positive thing. Okay, on that note, I'm now going to go on and do videos on the negative and the positive side of it. But if you've got the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in your horoscope, this is going to be particularly impacting on those people born around the 22, 23, 24 degrees of the mutable signs. So that's the 23, 22, 23, 24, especially around 23 of Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius. And if I were to put that into dates of birth, then with the Geminis, we're looking at something around June the 15th, 14th, 15th, 16th. If we're looking at the Virgos, then we're looking at something like September the 15th, 16th, 17th, particularly the 16th. If we're looking at the Sagittarians, then we're looking at the 14th, 15th, 16th of December, particularly the 15th. And with the Pisces, we're looking at, I suppose, around the 15th of March, plus minus one day. And if you're one of these people, this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction is going to be hitting you big time. Whether it hits you in a neutral way, and you find yourself becoming more concerned around what you eat, how the world is, and your own relationship with divinity, or whether you choose to see it in a positive way, which will be in the next video, or a negative way, well, that's where free will comes in. Remember, the planets impel, they don't compel.